Alex Thompson stared at their reflection in the bathroom mirror, the fluorescent light harshly illuminating the exhaustion etched into their features. They were in their mid-30s, working a job that, on paper, was a dream. But lately, everything seemed to have shifted, or perhaps Alex had just started noticing what had always been there. Anxiety had woven itself into their days like an unwelcome companion that shadowed every decision, every conversation, and every night's rest. The breaking point had come earlier that day during a presentation Alex had prepared for weeks. Standing before their colleagues, hands trembling, throat dry, they felt the familiar pangs of panic tightening in their chest. They managed to get through the slides, but their voice wavered, betraying the storm within. Afterward, as they sat in the dimly lit conference room alone, their manager's half-hearted compliment rang in their ears, punctuating the emptiness they felt. How had it come to this? How had fear taken such a firm grip on their life? That night, as Alex mindlessly scanned their bookshelf for a distraction, their hand rested on a thin, dusty volume wedged between novels. Discourses by Epictetus. It was a gift from an old college friend, a memento from a philosophy course they'd once taken for easy credits. Now the words "men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them" leapt off the page and echoed in their mind. Was it really that simple? Could the fear that had become a constant be dismantled by shifting perspective alone? Alex doubted it, but something within stirred a whisper of hope mingled with skepticism. Determined to try anything to break free from this anxious cycle, Alex decided to embark on a week-long journey. Armed with the Stoic principles Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius had taught centuries before, Alex vowed to try, day by day, to see if it was possible to quiet the relentless fears that had plagued them. They set out to conquer this internal battle, to reclaim the version of themselves that was fearless and unburdened. Day 1. Control what you can control. The first day dawned early, with Alex already sitting at the kitchen table, a fresh journal open before them. They decided to start with the principle that seemed the most straightforward. Focus on what is within your control. It sounded simple, and yet the more Alex reflected, the more they realized how often their thoughts drifted toward things they couldn't influence, other people's opinions, the future outcomes of projects at work. Today, they resolved to catch those thoughts and redirect them. At work, it was harder than expected. Each email from a supervisor brought a pang of anxiety, a reminder that someone's judgment lay beyond their control. During meetings, Alex's mind wandered, imagining worst-case scenarios of failure and disappointment. Several times they caught themselves spiraling and forced themselves to pause, drawing a mental line between what they could and couldn't influence. But the act of focusing on control wasn't always calming, sometimes it was frustrating. It felt like pushing against an invisible wall. Alex realized they were uncomfortable with not knowing what others thought or how situations would unfold, and trying to let go of these concerns brought an initial surge of resistance. The habit of wanting control over the uncontrollable was so ingrained that surrendering it felt unnatural, almost reckless. By evening, Alex noted in their journal how exhausting it had been to stay mindful of this principle, but there was a small glimmer of relief as well, a hint that they could perhaps learn to accept the unknown. Day 2, prepare for setbacks. The power of premeditation maloraneth, next Stoic practice. Premeditate maloraneth was one Alex approached with a mix of curiosity and hesitation. Premeditation malorum, or the practice of anticipating potential challenges, seemed counterintuitive at first, wasn't the goal to reduce anxiety. But Stoic philosophy taught that by mentally preparing for possible setbacks, one could lessen the shock and handle them with grace. Alex started small. That morning, they spent a few minutes imagining a difficult conversation they'd likely have with a coworker. They visualized how it might go poorly, how they might be misunderstood or met with criticism. Surprisingly, this exercise didn't increase their anxiety. Instead, it brought a strange calmness. By acknowledging the possibility of things going wrong, Alex felt prepared to face it without crumbling if it happened. This mental exercise continued throughout the day. Alex imagined potential mishaps, a delayed project, an unenthusiastic client, even a minor car accident during their commute. Each scenario was uncomfortable to imagine, but each also brought a sense of readiness. They began to see how avoiding the thought of setbacks had only amplified their fears, making them unprepared for life's inevitable curveballs. While initially tiring, the exercise grew easier as the day went on, and by nightfall, Alex found themselves feeling slightly more resilient, knowing they'd mentally rehearsed how they would handle potential obstacles. Day 3 embraced discomfort, cultivating voluntary hardship. On the third day, Alex was already beginning to feel the effects of the prior day's exercises. But today's Stoic practice, voluntary hardship, posed a new challenge. The principle was straightforward. By intentionally seeking out small discomforts, they could build resilience and reduce sensitivity to fear. In a world where comfort was increasingly accessible, Stoicism suggested that occasionally choosing discomfort could foster inner strength. Alex decided to start with minor challenges, things that pushed against their comfort zone but wouldn't disrupt their day entirely. They left their phone in their desk drawer during lunch to eat without distractions. The absence of constant notifications and social media scrolling made them restless at first, but gradually they noticed themselves feeling more present. The taste of their food, the light banter of colleagues, even the quiet moments of sitting alone all took on a new vividness without the phone's constant pull. The afternoon brought another small test. Instead of taking the elevator, Alex took the stairs. Normally, they'd avoid physical exertion, fearing they'd appear winded or unprofessional by the time they reached their floor. But today, they embraced it, forcing themselves to view the shortness of breath and slight perspiration as signs of strength rather than weakness. This intentional discomfort, while simple, felt like a small victory, a reminder that resilience could be cultivated in everyday moments. But the exercise wasn't without its challenges. Embracing discomfort felt unnatural, almost alien. For years, Alex had built routines around avoiding even minor inconveniences, and today felt like dismantling a part of themselves. By the time they returned home, they felt emotionally drained. It was hard, this willingness to go against years of self-protection and avoidance. But as they wrote in their journal that night, Alex realized they were experiencing life in a new way, no longer running from discomfort, but learning to coexist with it. The process felt like a gradual unburdening, a chance to rewrite their relationship with fear, one small act at a time. Emotional landscape. The challenges of early change these initial days were not without their internal battles. Emotions ran high, moments of pride intermingled with frustration and self-doubt. Each Stoic principle felt like a mirror showing Alex how deeply entrenched their fears had become. They grappled with an undercurrent of doubt. Could these ancient practices really make a difference? Yet with each passing day, Alex began to feel something unfamiliar, a faint but genuine sense of control. Not control over their circumstances, but over their reactions, their thoughts, their capacity to face fear without succumbing to it. At the end of the third day, as Alex lay in bed, they realized that something had shifted. The world still held its uncertainties and judgments, but for the first time in a long time, they felt capable of facing them.
The journey was just beginning, but even the small steps they'd taken felt monumental. Day 4. Practice mindfulness. Embracing the present moment. Alex woke up on the fourth day with a surprising sense of calm, something they hadn't felt in ages. After days of grappling with anxious thoughts, practicing voluntary hardship, and preparing for setbacks, a quiet resilience was emerging. Today, Alex was ready to embrace the next Stoic principle, presence. In Stoicism, This idea of living fully in each moment was essential, as it taught practitioners to avoid worrying about the future or fixating on the past. For Alex, who had always been burdened by what-ifs and regrets, the notion of truly inhabiting the present felt radical yet freeing. Alex started small, practicing presence in their morning routine. Brushing their teeth, they noticed the coolness of the water, the sound of bristles, the weight of the toothbrush in their hand. It was mundane, yet grounding. Each task they performed throughout the day was a reminder to stay within the moment. At work, Alex faced moments where their mind wandered to the inevitable deadlines, the potential reactions of their colleagues. But each time they pulled themselves back, focusing on the immediate task, the project in front of them, the client on the phone, the report that needed their attention. This mindfulness practice became especially powerful during a meeting that afternoon. Normally, Alex would find themselves distracted, rehearsing responses, or worrying about the impression they were making. But today, they made an effort to listen without anticipation, to understand the perspectives of others without trying to calculate outcomes. At first, it felt strange, even vulnerable, to be so open and present. Yet, by the end of the meeting, Alex felt unusually at ease. They had spoken naturally, their responses shaped by the moment, rather than anxiety-fueled premeditations. This shift brought an unexpected sense of confidence, and even a hint of excitement. They were finally connecting with life as it happened, instead of merely existing in its shadow. Day 5, Remember Mortality, Memento Mori. The following day, Alex delved into one of Stoicism's most challenging yet profound teachings. Memento Mori, the reminder of mortality. While daunting at first, Alex had come to realize that by acknowledging the finite nature of life, one could focus on what truly mattered, letting go of trivial fears and misplaced anxieties. The day began with a quiet meditation on the impermanence of life, and Alex felt a strange sense of clarity emerge. This practice changed the way Alex approached their day. Small worries that usually dominated their thoughts began to lose their grip. They found themselves calling an old friend, not to complain about work, but to ask about the friend's life, to catch up genuinely. They noticed the details around them, more sunlight filtering through the blinds, the sound of laughter down the hall, the warmth of a colleague's smile. Each moment took on a new weight, and Alex began to appreciate the depth of life that had been lost amid daily fears. When evening came, Alex sat down with their journal and wrote about the unexpected peace they felt. They reflected on how focusing on mortality had reminded them to let go of perfectionism, to prioritize joy over judgment, presence over pretense. This principle was not about morbidity, but about sharpening one's focus on what mattered. The anxiety that once accompanied every minor decision seemed to dissolve as they embraced the reality that time was precious, too precious to waste on worry. Day 6. Detached from outcomes, amorphation. The 6th day, Alex tackled amor fati, the principle of loving one's fate. It meant embracing whatever happened with a spirit of acceptance, learning not just to tolerate but to actively embrace all outcomes, good, bad, and unforeseen. This practice was, perhaps, the most difficult for Alex, who had always been someone invested in perfecting outcomes, in managing results. The day began with a test as Alex prepared for an important presentation. Instead of envisioning the perfect scenario, they consciously reminded themselves, whatever happens, happens. This mindset was a release, allowing Alex to go into the presentation without the weight of needing it to be flawless. As they spoke, they felt calmer, less burdened by the need to perform. There were moments they stumbled over words, and instead of feeling dread, they embraced these imperfections, carrying on with a sense of acceptance. By the end of the presentation, Alex felt an overwhelming sense of relief, not because they had achieved perfection, but because they had eschewed to themselves without fear of judgment. The principle of amor fati had freed them to move through life with a lighter heart, accepting that every moment, every event, was a part of their unique journey. This newfound detachment from outcomes infused Alex with a sense of peace they had never known. They were no longer burdened by needing to control each moment. Instead, they were free to live each moment fully. Day 7. Gratitude and daily reflection. On the final day, Alex turned to the last Stoic principle, gratitude and reflection. They began the morning with a meditation on gratitude, recounting not just the obvious blessings, but also the struggles of the past week. This practice brought a rush of emotions. Every principle, every lesson they'd embraced over the last 6 days had reshaped them in ways they hadn't thought possible. Throughout the day, Alex practiced gratitude for each interaction and experience, finding beauty in the small moments: a kind word from a friend, the quiet contentment of a finished project, the satisfaction of meeting the day with courage. That evening, they reflected on the week's journey in their journal, noting how far they had come. Fear was no longer a dark shadow. It was a manageable companion, no longer dictating their every move. In their closing thoughts, Alex felt a sense of gratitude not only for the positive experiences, but also for the challenges they had faced. These had become invaluable teachers, helping them understand what it truly meant to live a Stoic life. For the first time in years, they felt deeply connected to themselves and to the world around them, armed with the strength to face whatever might come next. Transformation reflections. Alex reflected on their week-long journey. They were no longer the anxious, controlled person they'd been a week ago. Fear had not vanished, but it was no longer a consuming force. Instead, it felt like a manageable wave, one they could observe, understand, and let pass. Each Stoic principle had guided them through a new layer of growth, shaping their mindset and actions. They reflected on each principle and its impact. 1. Control what you can control. By focusing on controllable aspects, Alex felt empowered and freed from the anxiety of others' judgments. 2. Prepare for setbacks. Visualizing challenges allowed them to face life with resilience rather than resistance. 3. Embrace discomfort. Choosing discomfort instilled a confidence they hadn't known, teaching them that growth and fearlessness could coexist. 4. Practice presence. Living in the moment revealed the beauty of life in its simplest forms. 5. Remember mortality. Embracing life's brevity helped them prioritize joy, connection, and purpose. 6. Detach from outcomes. By loving their fate, Alex found peace in acceptance, releasing the need for perfection. 7. Practice gratitude. Reflecting on each day's blessings deepened their connection to the world and to their journey. A call to action. As Alex closed their journal, they felt a stirring within, a desire to share what they had learned. They knew their journey wasn't unique. So many others struggled with fear, and if Stoicism could help them, it could help anyone. With a sense of purpose, they decided to encourage others to take small steps, just as they had to conquer their own fears through Stoic principles. Their message was simple: fear doesn't vanish, but our relationship with it can change. Each day, each principle was a stepping stone to building inner strength, helping them face life's challenges with courage, acceptance, and gratitude. Conclusion. Alex's journey with Stoicism had shown them that peace, strength, and fearlessness were not distant ideals. They were choices cultivated through intention and practice. They had learned to see life not as something to be controlled, but as something to be embraced fully and without reservation. As Alex stepped outside, feeling the cool evening air, they were no longer burdened by fear of the unknown. Instead, they felt a quiet confidence, a faith that whatever came next, they could handle it, not by avoiding fear, but by facing it with courage, patience, and an open heart. Their journey had just begun, And for the first time in a long time, they were ready to live it.